My wife and I just moved back to her hometown. We love living in a big city, but we had agreed when we got married that when we started a family we would move to a small town. It sort of sucks, but I am only a 45-minute drive from a theater and good restaurants. It's not like we are in the middle of the woods. We live in Canada. Weed is fully legal here. I like to make weed butter and cook with it. I make brownies or fudge and my wife and I both partake. Well, her not so much right now because she is breastfeeding. My wife insisted that we give her mom a key for emergencies. I disagree, but I lost the vote. So he talked about it and I said I was fine with it, but it was only for emergencies. She wasn't to use it to come over and clean up or anything like that. Her mom agreed and we gave her a key. Well, she followed the rules for about 2 months. My wife is out of town in the city for the weekend visiting friends. Since it is a 2-hour drive to that side of the city, she is just staying there. I came home last night and found my mill high as a kite in my living room. She had decided that since my wife was out of town I needed a home-cooked meal. One thing led to another and she found some fudge. She was so high all she was doing was staring at the TV. Ico will do that to you. I called my wife and laughed my ass off. She is giving me shit for letting her mom get high. And for laughing at her mom. Mill is currently resting in the guest bedroom. My wife's stepdad came to get her, but she is not moving. We had a few beers and watched the Jays get destroyed. She came into our home and ate my stuff without permission. I'm not really upset. She is super helpful and she has always been nice to me. I just think it's hilarious. But my wife says I'm an asshole for laughing at her mom. Edit. Small update. Just talked to Mill. She absolutely knew what she was eating. She just hasn't had any in a while and I guess was expecting more of an experience like Cheech and Chong. Not the genetically modified hybrid that I buy. So background, I, 32F, have a brother, Dave, 35 meters, who's married to Sarah, 29F. They don't have children yet. I have a son who just turned 4 and a 3-month-old daughter with my husband, 39 meters. My husband and I live in Belgium most of the time, but we travel back to visit my family about once a month, in England. At home, we speak both English and French to our children. My husband is Belgian, and right now, my son is in this very sweet phase where he'll sometimes mix up the two languages and say a couple of words in English in a French sentence or vice versa. This has never posed a problem to us, and even the staff at his nursery have reassured us that it's very common and they tend to grow out of it once they start at school. My sister-in-law has decided that this is a problem, so when we're visiting my parents and she notices my son doing this, she'll correct him, but she does so really rudely, whereas my husband and I will just gently correct him. Anyway, we're visiting at the moment and she's now decided that instead of correcting him, she's just going to start ignoring him when he does this. I sort of noticed her doing it when we arrived, and I thought it was odd, but assumed maybe she was just stressed. Her job is quite intense, but it only really became an issue yesterday. My husband was talking to my dad outside and I was feeding my daughter in the other room, and I'd left Louis with Sarah and Dave. When I came back downstairs, Louis was crying, and I managed to understand that he tried to ask Sarah for a drink. He has a special cup he uses that he was holding, so it was obvious what he meant, but that she just ignored him. I asked her why and she explained that she wasn't going to reply to him unless he said the sentence correctly and that I shouldn't be ignoring my son's obvious speech issues. For context, it's not that she didn't know what he wanted. She told me that she understood exactly what he was asking for, but that she was deliberately refusing because he hadn't asked correctly. This really pissed me off, but luckily my husband came inside at that moment and pulled me away so we could calm down and settle Louis. That night at the dinner table, Sarah asked me to pass her something, but she said it in bad English. She is English, I just mean that she asked for it in slang. Think, pass us the peas, will you? I had a bit of an epiphany and I just decided to totally ignore her. She asked again, and I did the same thing. My brother asked why I was ignoring his wife and I said that I'm not able to reply if she can't speak English correctly and that it's wrong of him to ignore her obvious issues with grammar. Everyone's pretty pissed off with me and I admit it was incredibly childish, but she was needlessly being a dickhead to my baby. Should I just apologize? Edit. Wow, this really blew up. Thanks for all the comments and support. And thanks for all the ESH/am messages too. I'm not going to apologize to her, because, to be quite frank, I think she deserved it, but I will have a conversation with her and my brother before we leave to try and explain that, for one thing, it's completely normal, and, more importantly, that if she keeps correcting or ignoring my son, I'll be severely limiting their contact. Although I doubt if I'll ever leave him alone in a room with her again anyway. To answer a few of the most common questions, when I said everyone was mad at me, I meant my brother, his wife and my parents, although my parents don't agree with what Sarah's doing either. They're more trying to keep the peace. My husband is entirely on my side, and when he realized what Sarah had done to Louis, he only saw the aftermath. He wanted to cut short the trip. Sarah, and the rest of my family, only speak English, which I suppose goes some way towards explaining why she doesn't understand it. I do think it's a monolingual reaction because we've never experienced anything similar in Belgium. One final thing, lots of questions about why we're in the UK so often. My husband has to be in London for his job about once a month/once every 6 weeks, so we tag along. I freelance, and a few of my clients are UK-based, so it's a good opportunity for me to fit in a few meetings too. It also gives us the chance to bring Louis and Misha over to see my parents before Louis starts school, and we have to cut down on the visits. It's been over a week since I posted www.reddit.com web link. Thank you guys for your judgments and advice. I have blocked my parents on everything and have gone no contact. After just over a week I already feel like a new person without them in my lives. My boyfriend has been my rock through all this. I was a mess of tears and anger the first few days and he's the one who got me through it. I'm currently staying with him, renting, but we have been looking for our own place together since the lease on the current place runs out soon. I went to my GP and got a mental health plan done up, so I should be seeing a therapist soon, free of charge. It's not a huge update, but I'm doing a lot better in so little time from just cutting them out of my life. I'm looking forward to the future. To make a long story short, I, F25, am a medical student. My free time is very limited and I have lots and lots of commitments. My sister, F33, has 3 kids all under 10 and she often expects me to babysit for her, which isn't the main problem, but she drops them off at random times with very short notice or no notice at all. The other day, she called saying she was on her way to drop the kids off at my place, because she was attending her friend's child-free wedding and she couldn't take the kids with her. I had a huge argument with her on the phone because I had to study for my upcoming exam, but next thing I knew, the kids were at my doorstep and she was already back in the car and then drove off with her husband. I was so pissed I couldn't handle it. I decided to get dressed 30 minutes later and take the kids right where their mom and dad were. I drove them to the wedding, which was at her friend's house, and had them go in. The men there tried to stop the kids till my sister and her husband came rushing. My sister was shocked. She started shouting after me, but I quickly got into the car and drove off. I went home and she started calling me. After she realized I wasn't going to pick up, she sent few texts calling me unhinged and a fucking $1 for putting her in this situation and embarrassing her in front of her friends. She mentioned that by bringing the kids to the child-free wedding I disrespected her friend, which affected their relationship and caused her and her husband to go home and miss out on the rest of the wedding. Her husband called later and I picked up thinking he'd speak to me rationally like he always does, but he scolded me saying that it wouldn't hurt if I kept the kids for a few hours, and then expressed how disappointed he was and how selfish and petty I was to do this to my sister and her kids. Now I'm thinking I should have sucked it up for a few hours. Ada? I, am 37, have a daughter, now 13, Olivia, from my former relationship. Currently, I'm married to my wife who has a daughter, 16, Brittany. So, Brittany is the opposite of Olivia. For example, Brittany is a social kid, Olivia is introvert. The list is long, but they're just the complete opposite. Olivia's 13th birthday was 2 days ago. She loves chocolate and I decided this is the flavor I was going to go with when I contacted the bakery. However, my wife objected since Brittany absolutely hates chocolate and suggested we go with vanilla. I said no way because, for one, Olivia hates vanilla and it's also her birthday, so She gets to have her cake with her favorite's flavor. My wife got upset and took it as in I had no regard for Brittany and that we should just choose another neutral flavor instead. I shut that down and said no more discussing this because I'd already decided to go with what Olivia wanted. At the day of the birthday, I was supposed to go get the cake, but I was surprised to see my wife coming home after picking up the cake from the bakery. I looked at it and discovered that it wasn't a chocolate cake but a vanilla cake with small pieces of chocolate on top. I got pissed thinking they got my order wrong and was about to contact them, but my wife said there was no mistake and that she called the bakery the day before and made slight changes to the cake to please both girls. I was stunned. I lost it on her and asked why the hell she did that. She got defensive, saying that birthdays are no excuse to show favoritism and that her daughter is watching and observing how I'm treating both girls. I told her off since I was the one paying, then called the bakery and explained what happened. I had the cake returned and replaced with a chocolate cake. Although this one is smaller, but it was fine. My wife declined to take part in the celebration and later we got into a huge argument where she called me controlling and selfish for sharing the cake instead of using this opportunity to teach Olivia to compromise so everyone's happy. Now I'm teaching her to be selfish. I said that my daughter gets to act selfish on her birthday and that she, my wife, was teaching her daughter to be entitled. Word for word, and it led to a bigger argument. We're not talking as of now. Ada for returning the cake and not taking my wife's input into consideration? My husband's sister moved in with us after a major argument about the baby's name. They're expecting and she's 7 months in. She's known to be picky and refuses to eat what we normally cook. We only cook her favorite food, which I can eat. Allergies yay. Every day at dinner I have to figure out what to eat since she only eats food that I'm allergic to. Last night, my husband agreed that he'd cook for her and cook for us together separately. I got home after a long day at work and found out that Sil convinced my husband to only cook the meal she wanted and cancel on the meal we planned to have. I saw them eating together in the kitchen. My husband apologetically said his sister convinced him to eat with her and not cook the meal I wanted us both to have. I said it was fine, then went to order some food from the restaurant. I went to take a shower and did some work on my laptop, then came downstairs to find my order placed on the kitchen counter. It was open and someone ate the majority of it. I turned around and there was Sil standing saying she woke up hungry and couldn't resist the smell that was coming out of the box. I lost it and yelled at her asking WTF she did that, but she said that she did save me some, which isn't true because there was only some rice and dressings. We started arguing and I told her I couldn't take this anymore and told her to pack her shit and leave first thing in the morning. She began crying and my husband got involved and defended her up and down, repeatedly saying she's pregnant and is eating for two basically. He suggested I go make myself something quick from the fridge and let it go, but I refused and a bigger argument ensued. Ada for kicking her out over this.